I was already getting this question a lot before I put up the video announcing that I would be running the analysis section on Equestria Daily, but now it's gotten a lot more frequent that people are asking me how to make or edit or do analysis videos of My Little Pony. So I'm going to go through unscripted for once, and I'm going to talk about a lot of different things, a lot of different pieces of advice when it comes to doing what I do. First things first, the question I want to ask everyone who wants to do analysis is why? This is the number one most important thing that I think is everyone should ask themselves before they do anything, is really why they are interested, why they want to do it, because for me personally, I'm extremely passionate about doing analysis. That's pretty much all I do, is I analyze stuff. That's how I spend my day, all day, every day, you know. So yeah, analysis is like a really big deal to me. I know that this is not even true for all of the analysis bronies, but I think each of them has on some level thought about why they're doing what they do. For instance, Brony Curious is a big time story writer. He loves creating his own stories, and that's what's most important to him. So the reason he does things like analysis is because he can look into other stories, figure out what makes them good or makes them work, and then he can reapply that to his own story. So it helps him as a writer to understand other writings. So that's why analysis is interesting to him, but it's not something that he wants to do as a long-term thing. For me, I don't really like writing stories. I really enjoy analyzing other people's stories or analyzing my own. Even when I do write my own stories, it's more interesting to me to actually analyze my own stuff than it is for me to write it. Yeah, you know, I have a deep passion for analysis, so I want to be sure, not necessarily that before you go into analyzing things, you don't necessarily have to be passionate about it the way that I am. But I do want you to ask yourself why. Why do you want to do this? Figure that out first. And once you figured that out, that'll help you to move on to figure out how you're going to go about doing it. Because, for instance, let's say that your reason for doing it is that it's really interesting to you personally, and you just are worried about yourself. You don't even really care if anyone else reads your analysis. You just want to have yourself this analytical thing going on. If that's the case, then there's actually no need to do analysis videos or even make public analysis writings. You could just do it yourself. Keep it to yourself, you know, in a book or on your computer. For the last few years, I've actually been running an anime blog where I did analysis and just keeping it mostly to about a handful of people who were reading. In my early days as an anime blogger, I stressed a lot over the fact that I didn't have any readers. It bothered me because, you know, I saw myself as someone who, I guess, deserved it for some. I guess I was just entitled. I really felt like I deserved to have people watching, reading my posts, and I really didn't because they weren't that good. Most of my early stuff is really awful because obviously I was a new writer, and writers always get better as they go from practice, you know, from writing more and more, recognizing what you're doing wrong. Reading a lot also helps a lot because I obsessively read analysis and reviews. So when I was reading other people's posts on like anime bloggers and stuff, that was how I realized that I wasn't doing a good job of it because those people were doing a better job. You know, all of that is very important, but yeah, early on, I really wanted more readers, and so I started trying to get more readers, but I quickly realized that getting more readers and doing what I wanted to do were not the same thing. If I wanted to have more readers, I would have had to talk about popular shows that I didn't necessarily care about, cover them in an episodic format, which I didn't want to do, and stuff like that. And so I said, fuck it, I really am not that concerned. Like, what's more important to me is writing about what I want to write about, which it was more important than actually going and, you know, becoming popular or whatever. So over time I stopped caring about becoming popular, and I was running this anime blog for a long time, just basically to a handful of people who had been around for, you know, who had been reading me for a while. Most of them were friends who also wrote anime blogs, so we all kind of just knew each other, and that was enough for me for a long time. It didn't bother me anymore. But the reason I started making videos is because I do want to become a career analyst. Like, this is what I want to do for a living. So I knew that I would have to appeal to a broader audience. So I was writing MLP analysis on my blog for a while. About most of 2012, I wrote analytical posts about MLP that no one was reading, and I didn't put them out there. I didn't really advertise that I was writing them because no one cared about writing. Most people want to see in this fandom, most people care about video, and you know, like visual presentation just does way better. You notice that most of the popular stuff in the MLP fandom is images, comics, songs, audio visual structure. So I started converting my analysis into video because I wanted to see if it could reach a broader audience. I didn't intend to actually make any money off of doing MLP analysis. I eventually wanted to become a video game analyst because that's what I had originally set out to do. That's why I bought all my equipment and stuff that I used to make these analytical videos, but it just happened that the MLP videos got way more successful than they thought they would be, so I've been concentrating on them. And if there comes a time when I'm done with MLP, when I don't want to talk about it anymore and no one cares anymore, then I'll be able to move on to the next thing, but I will always be doing analysis regardless of this fandom. That's just what I do. So anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up is because so many people want to do videos, and I'm wondering if there's again, a purpose to exactly why you want to do video. Is it just because you've seen other people do video? Do you actually care about making sure a lot of people see your content? And if so, what you have to realize is that just doing video won't be enough. You also have to do really solidly well put together videos. That's why I bought all this equipment to do videos, because I have videos that I've done before I had this equipment. I had video game videos analysis that I did on my old channel called Adventure Action RPG, and you can go watch those and you'll see that the visual presentation is very similar to what I do now. I had a character who was on the right side of the screen. He was talking about whatever footage was showing up on screen, but he didn't really move at all. He just kind of stood there with a beer and talked about whatever images were on screen. And I would use that for the parts where I was talking about like the history of a game and stuff like that, and then I would switch over to game footage for the actual parts where I was talking about what happens in the game. So it's a very similar format to what I use now for MLP analysis. Well, these videos, the thing is that the audio quality was less than great. I was using the microphone that's mounted in my laptop to record, and I knew that a low recording quality was never going to cut it. Even though, you know, I had these great scripts, I like to think that I talked pretty well. I was editing out all the silences and stuff like that. You know, I was making sure it was properly presented, but I knew that a low audio quality was always going to be a thorn in my side. And I knew that having just a character who doesn't move on screen was going to seem pointless, you know, because he was sort of based on Yahtzee's style, but Yahtzee's characters move and do stuff and they're humorous, so there's a reason for them to be there. And my character's only purpose to being there was so that there wouldn't be just a bunch of stuff floating in space, because I didn't like to have a lot of stuff floating in space. When I started doing MLP analysis and I was just using scenes from the show because it seemed like that was easier and I didn't really need a character, of course, it turns out that they started pulling my videos, so I brought the character back in. Before I started doing these analyses, like after doing those old ones, I sat there and I went, how can I make these quality enough that people will start paying attention? So I went out and I bought this really nice microphone with a preamp. I made sure I had decent editing software so that I could actually do this, you know, stuff to make it look really nice. And when I got a character, you know, I made sure that I could get an artist who could draw it for me, because I can't draw. You know, you've probably seen the character that I used in my Applebug season review, and it's hideous, but I just wanted it as a stand-in character until someone else could draw one for me. You know, asked people for advice about the visual presentation, because like at first I had this bright-ass purple background, and people were like, dude, use like a muted color, or a, what was the word? It's, I don't remember. It was a type of color I didn't know the name of, and then I looked it up and I went, oh, okay, this will work. So I put in that kind of color, and so that it makes it easier to watch. So, you know, I tried to make sure I was doing a lot of research and stuff to figure out how to do this right, and I looked at a lot of analytical YouTube videos. You know, I've been a big fan of Sequelitis, I'm a big fan of Errant Signal, I'm a big fan of Extra Credits, obviously Yahtzee I've already mentioned, who I watch a lot of his videos. I've watched all of the, you know, JonTron, Peanut Butter Gamer, anybody who does anything kind of like this at all. I've looked at what they've done. What did they do right? What makes their videos entertaining? Why do people care? And it's funny because the way I feel about each of these reviewers, like the way I would stack them up in relation to one another, is very close to how popular each of them is. Like Egoraptor's Sequelitis series is my top tier, and he's got the most subs, and then JonTron, and then PBG, you know, and like that's the quality where I would rank them at anyway. So yeah, I definitely look into what are these people doing, what gets them to their different levels of success, and why. So if you are not concerned about being a career YouTuber or being a career analyst, there's no real reason to go as far as I've gone, where you need to have this nice microphone, this nice setup, blah, blah, blah. And you also, like, if you're not that concerned about having a large number of fans, it's just not a problem, you know? If you're not worried about having this broad appeal, then it doesn't matter. The problem I have with the fact that everyone's doing video is that not everyone can do video super well, and I feel that your analysis will probably suffer from being in a poorly made video, whereas it could thrive if it was just in text. Because if it's just in text, then you don't have to worry about the visual presentation presentation. You don't have to worry about, you know, having a nicely designed OC. You don't have to worry about the way it looks, the way your audio editing is, whether or not you have a good voice. You know, all of that stuff doesn't matter. You can just write what you want to write. If that's what you're really passionate about, if that's what you're really interested in, is just making analysis, do it in text form and post it on Tumblr and link me your Tumblr. I will read it. You know, when I got into this fandom, I really wanted there to be more analysis of the series, and so I will look out for your stuff. I know a few people who do text analysis of the series, and they're phenomenal. My friend Misfortune Dog, who I've mentioned in a few videos, he only does text, and his stuff is better than anyone else's, better than mine, better than anyone that I've seen, because even though he's not interested in making video and he's not interested in having a big audience, he's extremely dedicated to making extremely in-depth analysis of the show. So, you know, I would say that if you're not concerned about popularity or about spread, don't concern yourself with making video. But if you are concerned with those things, if you do want to make video, or maybe you're just passionate about making videos, maybe the idea of doing text-based analysis just doesn't interest you, it doesn't matter to you unless it's in video form. In that case, then I will give you tips on the presentation. So again, the number one thing I advise is to look at other reviewers and see what they do right, and take as much of it as possible. So for instance, I love Egoraptor's Sequelitis series. He does everything right. He has videos that are extremely entertaining and extremely informative, and the way that he goes about it is that the entertainment value of a Sequelitis video is inherent to the discussion he's making. Like, he makes jokes, he makes funny stuff, but all of it helps his point. So it's not just random comedy bits thrown in for no reason, which I would hate to see that. I hate when there's just random comedy for no reason. So he has comedy and he has analysis, and they both are strong, and he has full animation in his things, which is fantastic. So his art quality is top notch. Everything about it, you know, the editing, the video, whatever, it's all great. Now, the point is that none of us can be Sequelitis, because Sequelitis is drawn by an animator who's been animating since he was like 12, so he knows what the hell he's doing, and B, takes like 6 months per video to produce. The closest thing that we have in the Brony fandom to that level of dedication is Anthony C's videos, he did his Canterlot Wedding review, which is 30 minutes long, which is about how long no, more than that, I think. Is it like 40 minutes long? It's really long. Super long review. It's funny. All of the comedy is important to what he's trying to say. It's got lots of animation, tons, like the presentation is phenomenal. Everything about it is perfect. So I would say that's like the highest class of analysis that we have here on YouTube of My Little Pony. The unfortunate thing is that Anthony C takes like forever to put out a video because he's putting so much effort into it. I don't have an interest in putting that much effort into my videos because I want to make a lot of them. There's too many topics that I'm interested in covering. So my goal is, how can I minimize the actual editing effort so that I can put as much information as possible into the reviews and not worry about other stuff and get out as many videos as possible. So I minimized it down to where I just have a template of this character who I can throw into a video very easily. I can just like match up his facial expressions to what I'm saying, and that is pretty much the core of the entertainment value of my videos, is that there's my voice, which is important because people like my voice. There's the audio editing, which is supposed to keep everything really fast and really like boom, boom, boom. I'm making my points. I'm keeping your attention. The pony looks around and stuff so that it will, if you start to lose attention to what I'm saying, you can look at him and he's looking back and forth, and it keeps you looking at the video. One of the problems that I was discussing with Theory Brony about his videos is that in his early ones, his pony is just making one pose, and his on-screen footage sometimes would be important to what he was saying, but sometimes it wasn't. And because it wasn't sometimes, I would get distracted and I would open up a new tab and I'd just listen to his video. But if I'm not looking at his video, I start to pay less attention to what he's actually saying because I'm reading something else, and so I'd get distracted and I'd have to watch his video again to actually get his point. So it is important for something to be happening visually on screen if you want to keep your viewers' focus on the screen. So what I do with my videos is pretty much what I consider to be the minimum for what makes a really good YouTube presentation. Someone who goes a little bit farther than me is Brony Curious, because he has the editor Formula Dash. Formula Dash knows how to he knows how to infuse humor into the visuals of the presentation, so that even though what Brony Curious is saying isn't necessarily funny, what's happening on screen or the music choices or something will keep you entertained and engrossed in what's happening on screen. So I never click away during a Brony Curious video if it's edited by Formula Dash, because I really want to see what's happening. So yeah, editing and all that is very important if you're trying to have spread with your video. Again, if you're not concerned about having spread with your video, then whatever you want to do is pretty much fine. You know, you can just go at it with just, you know, here's what I've got, show it to a few people, show it to me. If I like it, I'll hit the like button on YouTube, you know, and maybe you'll get a few more people to look at it. But if you're not that concerned with it being popular, then don't stress over this kind of stuff. One of the big questions that everyone's going to have is about having an OC pony. As you probably know, mine was drawn by an artist. I don't like the way that Pony Creator ponies look, but there is an easy solution for you guys. There's this artwork by this guy Davion X on DeviantArt who created this extremely in-depth Photoshop thing where he basically created like tons and tons and tons of poses and customization for you to make your own OC pony with all of the poses already set by him. Basically, all you do is you open up this gigantic Photoshop document and you pick your poses and everything and you just recolor them. So it's basically an easy way to recolor, but it's got as many options as Pony Creator, but instead of looking really stiff, it looks stylish and interesting, and you've got a million poses to work with. So definitely, if you want your OC and you have Photoshop, use his thing. It's very cool. You'll be able to have a pony that while you will still have his style, and you know more than one person will be using his style, it will look diverse because it's such a unique and interesting style. It's better than having just a Pony Creator pony that's like standing in profile and all that. So yeah, I highly recommend using his Photoshop thing to make an OC pony. If you want to have your pony just standing looking at the screen, you know, make sure that the other stuff on screen is taking up a lot of space too. You don't just want your pony taking up too much space. And a thing that's important to me is I hate having black space in the backgrounds. This is not that big a deal. Sequelitis uses black space. Most people who make videos use black space. I can't stand it. That's why I put the blue green whatever background on my videos is specifically so that there wouldn't be black space back there. So pick a color that's not too glaring. Like if it's hard to look at, then nobody's gonna want to see it. I'm trying to remember what neutral color is what you should go for. For me, I didn't know what neutral colors were. I googled it. I got a sheet of neutral colors off of Google. I put that sheet into Photoshop. I chose a color and I paint bucketed the background in 1080p. There you go. I've got a 1080p single color background. So, you know, just pick a neutral color. Obviously, I've used a few of these for my videos. Like I have the mustardy color for the headcanon videos. I've got the purple one for the Digibrony After Dark videos. So yeah, definitely this is a great thing to use. So if you want a single color background, use that. And of course, don't feel like you have to use exactly the same style that me and Brony Curious used. ANY Pony and Paleo were both using a style where they had OCs on screen, but they had a variety of poses that weren't all static. And Golden Fox, I believe, does the same. His pony kind of is dynamic and moves around the screen and around the footage. If you want to do like me and Brony Curious do, you don't necessarily have to have the same kind of poses that we do or have your character be static. Formula Dash does a lot with Brony Curious's videos, where he moves the characters around the screen more dynamically, has a lot of stuff happening. So, you know, again, the reason that I do so little of that is because I want to minimize editing in my videos so that I can get them out faster, so I can have a lot more videos, because there's so much I want to talk about. I want to cover every episode, every character, every facet of the show, so I'm going ridiculous. And one more tip that I should say is that this has all been about, like, you know, so far I've talked about why you want to do videos, why you want to do analysis, and what you should do with the format of your videos. So this leaves the most important question, really, which is how should you go about doing the analysis? I think a problematic way of going into it is to say, I really want to do analysis, but you don't actually have any ideas. This would be a problem. Like, when I started writing about MLP, I didn't go at it like, I really want to talk about MLP in an analytical form. It was more like I had ideas, so I wrote posts. When I first watched the show, I was not doing episodic posts. I didn't have ideas yet. It was only as I continued watching it and started noticing things that were interesting to me that I started writing about them. My first video was about Too Many Pinkie Pies because when I watched that episode, I had this really interesting idea that what if Pinkie Pie was, you know, thought in this certain way where she was different from her clones? What separated her from her clones? That was interesting to me. So I made a video about that. If I had just gone into it like, I want to make a review of Too Many Pinkie Pies, I have no idea what I'm going to talk about, but I'm going to share my opinion, then it would not have been nearly as interesting to me to write or to anyone else to watch. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with just sharing your thoughts on MLP because you feel like it, but for me personally, I probably won't be as interested in your videos if you're just doing that. That's why I don't like really review videos. I prefer analysis videos. That's why I use that word, because a review is usually just you sharing your thoughts about the quality, like a quality judgment about the show. And I'm not interested in quality judgments about the show. I'm interested in deeper readings and like meanings and finding stuff in the show. So definitely I would say only do analysis. And I mean, don't take my word for this. You can do whatever you want. But for me, I would suggest that you do analysis if you have interesting ideas. And don't second guess yourself about whether it's interesting. If you want to write about it, if it's interesting to you, write about it. You know, don't worry about if anyone else is going to find it interesting. But definitely don't go into it just because you feel like, maybe I'll share my opinion on this thing for no reason. You know, go into it like, oh, I've got this great idea. I really want to get this out there. I can't believe no one said this yet. You know, that's the kind of stuff, that's the kind of exciting stuff that when you make that video and we watch it, we'll go, ooh, why didn't I think of that? You know, or wow, that's really interesting or engrossing or detailed and I like it, you know? Yeah. Also, some more technical stuff on how I make these videos, since I know some of you will be like, okay, that's all fine and good, but how do I actually do all this? So what I did was I bought a professional microphone with a pop filter. A pop filter is important because you may have noticed that when I make a puss sound, it's kind of intense, and it would be a lot worse if I didn't have the pop filter. Of course, you can use a headset mic or whatever other kind of microphone you have. You want something that's at least decent, because if it's going to have like a hissing noise, or if it's going to sound like, then, you know, it's going to be really hard to watch. And again, I would rather you just did text analysis than actually trying to use a garbled microphone. If you do buy a nice microphone, you'll probably have to buy a preamp, which is a thing that you plug your microphone into, and then that plugs into your computer, unless you get the microphone that Brony Curious has, which I believe is an AT2020 from Audio-Technica. It's about $100 and it plugs right into your computer. Mine's about $30 more. It's slightly nicer, but it has to have a preamp, so you know that's going to cost you an extra $50 for the preamp. To edit your audio, you just can use Audacity, or if you're a Mac user, then whatever. I don't remember what Theory Brony uses, but I use Audacity. It's a free program that you can easily find and download. Everyone uses it. You hit a record button and it starts recording your voice. It's real fucking simple, and you can easily edit in there. So you know that's where I cut out all the stops and everything is all in Audacity. Then I export a file from Audacity in FLAC, because FLAC is the highest quality audio that you can get, and I put that FLAC file into Vegas Pro 12, Sony Vegas Pro 12. This is my favorite editing program because it's powerful, but it's really easy to use. A lot of people use Adobe Premiere. A lot of people use Final Cut. Those ones are usually what most professionals use. They each have things that make them different that you probably don't care about if you're just doing something like what I'm doing. I don't use anything really advanced. What's great about Vegas for me is that there's a timeline there that's really easy to just throw shit into. I literally take a picture, I just throw it into the timeline, it's there. I take another picture, throw it on top of that picture, it's there, you know, and so it's super easy for me to do this stuff. You're probably seeing on-screen footage of me doing some really simple editing, so, you know, that's how easy it is with Vegas. As for how to get Vegas, that's up to you to figure out. I cannot help you, but yeah, that's my favorite program. You can use, like, you know, Windows Movie Maker or whatever if you can figure out how. I wouldn't know how to use it because I haven't done so in a long time. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope you learned some things about figuring out why you're doing analysis and figuring out how exactly to do analysis and how to make videos. Again, I really hope to see, you know, more. I hope to see more people doing analysis, but I hope to see them doing it in a way that is convenient for them. I don't want to see more videos by people who aren't really that concerned about the video editing part. They just want to get their opinion out there. I'd like to see that done in writing. I'd like to see you open a Tumblr. Don't think this is me trying to shy you away from like me posting you on Equestria Daily, because I will post text stuff eventually if I get some of it that I think is interesting and deserves to be posted. I've always had a problem with the lack of text stuff in the fandom, the lack of attention that text stuff gets, because text stuff is great. So I would like to be able to post your text analysis onto Equestria Daily. So yeah, open a Tumblr, open a WordPress, whatever, you know, make a nice text blog. And if you want to do video, then I encourage you to do whatever level of editing you are comfortable with, and if you do want to have more viewers, take my advice, do what I do, basically. You know, try and reach the highest level of quality that you can if you want to have the furthest reach. If you're not concerned about having a reach, don't worry about it. And that's all. This is DigiBrony signing off. How to do analysis, whatever, blah, 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 blah.